Wednesday. RawMikeRichards.com, broadcasting live from the DKI studios in downtown Toronto. 234 King Street East out of the Pacific Junction Hotel. Coming up today, one of my favorite players from the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Big Joe Montford. Now, he may not be 6'7". Generally, that's when people start getting the big, his arms are the size of most people's thighs. And he was quick. He could, with the speed coming off the edge, he was just such a fantastic player for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And so it's tomorrow night. Thursday night.
Thursday night.
They're going to have the big ceremony for Joe Montford, already in the Hall of Fame. But for Ticat fans, just great memories, just a great attitude from a guy comes out of the CFL, or really when I think about it overall, where athletes come from. We'll talk about that a little bit today. A little town in North Carolina, plays for South Carolina State. We'll also talk about, and Dave, I don't know if you know this name, Baba Khan. Do you know Baba Khan?
No, I'm not familiar. No, am I supposed to? Or
the Pakistani Hulk?
Oh, okay. Interesting.
He shows his feats of strength as he's desperate to be a wrestler.
Oh, okay. Well,
the footage is so bizarre. As soon as I see something that weird, that's for our show.
Yep. Set us up.
You got to see it, because most of it I don't believe, and I got to be honest. One of the things I'm going to show you isn't very believable. Like most of the stuff we talk about on this show. What? Here we go. And it won't.
We just become best friends.
Sorry, folks. There we go. Show's not that quick.
Although, it's quick, though, sometimes. Yeah.
Jordan's like, yeah, really? Okay. Before we get to Joe Montford in about 5-6 minutes here, looking at, this is a very angry world right now. And you go from extremes to extremes. What was shocking to me going up to the wedding, John Dix and his lovely daughter got married on the weekend.
Congratulations.
It was fantastic. On the way up there, we're listening to 680 News. So that's the local news wheel radio station here in this particular area in the GTA in Toronto. They'd mentioned that Toronto had just had its, on that Friday, the 60th murder. I go, 60 murders? God, I remember as a kid there'd be like 5.
Yeah,
and that was
in a year.
In a year, and that was shocking. By the time we came home on the Sunday, 63. And apparently last night, the Danforth again.
Yeah.
Maybe the fires that we see all around the world, whether it's here in Ontario, in Canada, in BC, in California, and all the other places around the planet, maybe it's just almost a reflection of where we are as a people right now on this planet. With anger, it is so volatile, is the word that I would use right now. It's a little frightening. It's tough, because whether it's guns, whether it's just the violence, this is a very, as I said, almost volcanic situation that I feel that we're going through on this planet. And every day something else happens that completely surprises me. So this brings us to what's going around the news today, this morning, at least in Canada. A woman in Edmonton apparently didn't like the way and hasn't liked the way this other neighbor had parked. So there was some dispute one way or the other. So courtesy of Global News in Edmonton, is the world getting angrier? Yeah, and apparently civility still isn't something that's an everyday occurrence. Once again, this is a courtesy and property of Global News in Edmonton. Get a load of this story once again today in Canada.
To have a chance to talk with the man who filmed this video.
Yeah, I did, Caroline. I spoke to Rahul Kumar today. He says the woman in the video is a frequent visitor to the apartment building. He says she sometimes parks in the fire lane, making it difficult for him to reverse his car out. Last week, she started yelling at him in front of his 2-year-old son. That's when he got out of his car and started filming. Take a listen.
East Indian bull.
Little quiet.
Oh, you parked illegally. You can film all you want. Yes, that's you. skin. Yeah. Hey, move your vehicle. You're parked illegally. Should I call the landlord?
A few weeks ago, Kumar says he spoke to the woman in the video about the parking issue, and he says that conversation didn't go well. The incident on video was filmed last Wednesday afternoon after he spoke to the rental agency about his concerns. In the video, you can also see there are children present. Kumar moved to Canada 7 years ago. He lives here with his pregnant wife and their 2-year-old son. He says this incident has shaken his perspective.
Why this is not my country? Why this lady has to tell me that? What facts make her to be a part of the country more? I'm here, I'm paying my taxes, I'm working, I'm doing everything as a normal person, as a normal citizen, right? What else should I do?
Well, the answer to that is you should never have to put up with that, regardless of where you go. And it's just, again, part and parcel of what we see in this country. And it's embarrassing. It's
really embarrassing. And for her to sit there, for her to say it with or without a camera is really sick to hear. But to know that you're getting taped and you continue to do that,
yeah.
I mean, wow. I mean that's the definition of trailer trash right there.
Oh, completely.
That's what that is.
That's a person filled with hatred, and again, I wish it was an isolated incident, but it wasn't. And it won't be, because I'm sure there's going to be more in this world that really has very little time for civility. You're watching RawMikeRichards.com, either on the dedicated YouTube channel or on the website itself. We're going to, in just a few minutes here, talk to a real legend and a gentleman, too. I'm really thrilled that we've been able to go out and Joe Montford, who was the Ticats all-time leading in tackles, until Rob Hitchcock broke that record, another beauty.
Yeah, no kidding.
Hitch was a great guy, too. I mean,
what a massive safety that you never wanted to cross the field in. Holy smokes.
Such an awesome guy.
Yeah.
So in just moments, we're going to see Joe Montford, but courtesy of the Hall of Fame, if you want to see exactly what it was like to play against Joe Montford, I got to tell you, folks, that it was not a lot of fun.
Joe Montford's CFL career began in 1995 as a linebacker for the U.S. expansion team, the Shreveport Pirates. The Pirates folded after the season, and he was acquired by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. After being moved from his regular position at linebacker with the Ticats, the defensive end led the league in quarterback sacks for 3 straight years. He picked up more than 20 a year from 1998 to 2000 and was one of the most feared pass rushers the CFL has ever known. Montford had a standout season with the Tiger Cats in 1998. He led the CFL with 21 quarterback sacks and 6 forced fumbles, being named a CFL All-Star and winning his first Most Outstanding Defensive Player award. In 1999, Montford came just a half a sack short of tying the single-season record of 26.5, set by fellow Hall of Famer James Parker. Though he didn't break the record, Montford led the league in sacks, recovered 5 fumbles, and had 3 touchdowns. Montford forced a key fumble in the 1999 Grey Cup, which led to a McManus to Flutie touchdown at the end of the first half. The Tiger Cats defeat the Calgary Stampeders 32-21. The year after the Grey Cup victory, Montford led the league in quarterback sacks for the 3rd straight year, as well as setting a new record with 3 consecutive seasons with a minimum 20 sacks. He was also the league leader in forced fumbles that season with 8. After 7 seasons with Hamilton, Montford played 1 season in Toronto and finished his career with the Edmonton Eskimos, taking home his 2nd Grey Cup championship in 2005. The 5-time CFL All-Star finished his career with 135 sacks. He was named one of TSN's top 50 CFL players, won 3 Most Outstanding Defensive Player awards, and will be remembered as one of the most dreaded pass rushers to ever play the game. The Canadian Football Hall of Fame is proud to welcome Joe Montford.
Joe Montford, you see him going from body to body and collecting them. And I got to tell you, I'm going to be real thrilled to talk to Joe. He's going to have a very nice night, Thursday night in Hamilton. And I look forward to, obviously, talking to him in just moments here as I am seeing that it is ringing, but I'm not hearing it.
Is that up?
No, but it's this one right here. And it's always when you try to time it with something, it comes out real nice. And for some reason...
Okay. Camera to me, Rusty.
All right,
I'll
there
talk.
we go as I continue to blow a gasket on stuff I hate.
Go help him, Rusty Bear. So basically, let's take a look at quickly the scoreboard for today. If you're in the city of Toronto and you still care about the Toronto Blue Jays, they have an afternoon game. It's a 12:37 start against the Baltimore Orioles, a team that is struggling mightily. Still hasn't hit 40 wins on the year at 37, and I think we have them now.
Hello?
I'm looking for the legendary Joe Montford. It's Mike Richards calling from rawmikeRichards.com.
Hey, Mike. How's it going, man? Hey, this is me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know it's you, all right. Oh, I know. Being a Ticats fan, I guess I should probably thank a bunch of people, including those from Beaufort, North Carolina, because I got to tell you, watching number 53 collect bodies like Dexter.
You know what? He was one of my favorites.
Joe, I mean,
if not my favorite, Deacon Jones.
And Deacon Jones too. Boy, Deacon was a piece of work. But so were you, my friend. And boy, I'll tell you, looking back on it, for a lot of people always seen the highlights. They saw you play. I'm always interested, in how you come to be here. So we talked about, North Carolina. You end up going to South Carolina State, but as a high school guy, as a high school kid, like, where did you think you were going to end up? What was the dream? What was the college? And what was the pro team? What was going to happen for you in your head?
Well, in my head, initially, growing up, there wasn't a lot of football on TV, but the teams that were up there were the Cowboys, Oakland Raiders, the Redskins, and San Francisco, and teams like that. So I became a Dallas Cowboy fan. So I always said I was going to be, up there with the star on my helmet. I didn't, growing up in North Carolina, we watched a lot of basketball. So even though North Carolina wasn't a big football school, just the thought of actually going to North Carolina would have been fabulous as well.
Well, and you make a great point, too, because you grew up in Tobacco Row, especially in that time. I would think almost your first feeling is that either you're going to play for the Tar Heels or you're going to be a smarty pants and play for Duke, or you're going to go to almost anywhere where you can play, because it to that time certainly was the dominant sport of that area.
It was. And then the funny thing is that in my hometown, we had a bunch of guys that actually went to North Carolina State. And so we had Bon Johnson and, all those guys that, went off and had NFL careers. So I had a kind of look, but at the same time, I wanted to kind of mold my own path. So I didn't necessarily want to go to North Carolina State.
So coming out of university, how much did you know about the Canadian Football League?
Probably zero, next to none. But the thing about it is I had a desire to one thing my mom always got, instill in us, even coming from a small town, because a lot of kids didn't go places, but my uncles always encouraged us to go different spots. And my mom would just get in our car, fill the gas tank up, and we would drive or we'll fly, do something. And so we was always in Maryland or doing stuff. She's like, whatever, son, don't limit yourself. So she's like, travel and see the world. So anytime something came up, she's like, that's the path that God put you in. So for me, I was just waiting for the next path for me to be put on.
Yeah, and that next path, Joe, and so good to talk to you. It's David Bastel here. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey.
That first path in the CFL was with the Shreveport Pirates. And a lot of people will sit there and go, Joe Montford was a Hamilton Ticat. No. It all started in Shreveport, Louisiana. How weird was that, playing in the CFL, but you're American-based, so it was even a lot closer to home than you probably thought would have happened.
Yeah, when things didn't work out, my first stop coming out of college was, I thought, being Black College Defensive Player of the Year, I thought the NFL was going to be in my plan. So I did sign with Cleveland. And my good friend Orlando Brown, who's no longer with us, the one got hit in the eye with the bag, was there in Cleveland at the time. And I ended up getting released and not knowing what was going to happen. So I ended up playing a little arena football, and just so happened my coach knew Forrest Gregg, who was the coach down in Shreveport. And it's like, I got a great player that, he'll be good in the system. And that's how I ended up with the Canadian Football League.
And that's quite a name too. I mean, I was sort of stunned. For Canadians when American teams first come into it, it's something that we never would have imagined in a million years. So when Larry Smith brings them in, and then you see Shreveport, which many people up here, Joe, they wouldn't have known. They would have known where that was, and because it's not the most it's not the most scenic place. I would think that you would be. No.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it was, I realized, now. Reason why some of the American teams couldn't really win, just because the Canadian teams and the players that had the Canadian players, you could see how the Canadian players was invested into the team, and I think that was really a huge difference of them actually really understanding the game and really investing in the game.
Well, after that season, you come up, you get to Hamilton, and then of course that's really where you had made your name. It's not where you finished, but I think I would speak on behalf of Ticat fans. We would think that's where your heart is, because you were the heart and soul of that team. The win in '99. Beating Calgary finally Hamilton beats Calgary. But those were some great teams. You had Danny Mack, you had Darren Flutie, amongst a whole bunch of others. It really was a time of turnaround in Hamilton, and Hamilton is a small town, even though it's a city. And they're you talking about investment. They're emotionally invested in that black and gold. And when you came here, you were part of that family, and always will be a part of that family.
Yeah, I mean, I get emotional. I was just speaking with a gentleman here in the restaurant, and I was just speaking about how much Ivor Wynn was a part of the city. I still think back at Ivor Wynn. I get emotional actually talking about it because, that stadium represented. I love the new stadium, but that stadium right there represented the workforce in Hamilton and how people live in the steel mill, and people giving their last just to try to get a glimpse of their Ticats.
And you bring up another point about emotion. Like if I had to make a comparison, so for people understanding, the way I see Hamilton to its fans were the way that I think in Pittsburgh. I think certainly when they were Steel Town, I think it was very similar. And I think for the New Orleans Saints during Katrina, when they looked to the one place they got, I think Joe, it's very similar.
It's definitely very, very similar. And for me, it just reminds me of my hometown. Not a very, very big city. And the city next to us had a lot of, white collar workers. And in my town, we did fishing and shrimping and farming and things of that nature. So, and I saw the struggles of men just trying to put, food on the table for their families and everybody just trying to live their lives. But also they got a professional team here and they want to support them.
Joe, the resume is amazing. A two-time Grey Cup champion, five-time CFL All-Star, five-time CFL East All-Star, of course, Hall of Fame in 2011, three-time most outstanding defensive player. But, when I think of Joe Montford, and I'm a longtime CFL guy, I'm from Western Canada, Joe, when I think Joe Montford and somebody tells me about Joe Montford, I think about the biggest biceps in the CFL. How you doing right now, Joe? I know you're retired and so forth, but are the biceps still there?
The biceps are there. The biceps will never leave. My dad, God bless him, he's always had big arms, so I kind of just got them from him, and they're there, man. They're not leaving me.
So I remember the big arms, and because I'll put my cards on the table, Joe. I'm a Winnipegger. I'm born and raised there, so I'm a Blue Bomber guy. Okay, that's
good. Okay, go Milt Stiegel. Okay.
And I know you're good friends with Milt Stiegel because I know the two of you worked out in the off season. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to know was how big were those shoulder pads, Joe? Because you looked like you're a big dude, but those shoulder pads made you look like Megatron.
Well, you know what? There's a history behind those shoulder pads. Back in college, I was paralyzed for about a year.
Okay.
And initially I had I thought it was just a stinger, but ended up being paralyzed, kind of like Joe Higgins. But it ended up coming back after a year. So they were more like my Superman pads, my something just to kind of protect me. That I don't know how much they protected me or how much it was an intimidation factor when people would see it.
Oh, it was big. It was big.
But I kind of traveled with them, almost like I got my wallet, got my keys, got my shoulder pads.
Well, it's funny. You won't remember. I'll remember this because I had actually met you while you were playing there, and we were sitting in some place, and I said, Joe, do the other players, because there's smack talk. There's a lot of talk out there. And I said, because of those enormous guns, I go, you must hear something. And you said to me, well, players come up to me and they say, those arms aren't so big. And you turned to me and said, which means they are.
They are, exactly. I remember saying it. You remember saying,
it's amazing. The one thing that I'm really going to be looking forward to on Thursday night, it's not Ivor Wynn. It's been revamped. It's a beautiful facility they have at Tim Hortons Field, but still it's got that similar feel, the way that the stands are.
Yes, it does.
And those people that are coming out, I think this is going to be a very emotional night for you.
It is. It's already. I tell you, last week I had butterflies in my stomach just talking, and my kids never got a chance to see me play. My oldest was probably 3, and my middle child was actually born in Edmonton, but so she didn't get a chance to see, and then my youngest didn't get to see any of it. So just to having them. And we just went over the videos last week, and, man, I could get the butterflies. I almost want to put a pair of shoulder pads on if I can go out there and get it done.
Hey, there are a lot of people wouldn't mind seeing that, just so you know. There's a lot of people out there. Boy, I'm so grateful that I had a chance to talk to you today. I know that you're also a very giving guy. You work with kids, too, do you not? Or at least I know you did at one point.
Well, I used to work with kids a lot.
Yeah.
I used to work in a center for abused kids. So, and then I worked at different centers where I go in and speak with kids. So, don't do as much. Once you get to kids, man, family life kind of takes over.
Yes, it certainly does. And you know what? The fact you had the time for us today, I'm so thrilled. I'm going to be watching, one of my favorite players, but you probably hear that a lot when you come to this area, certainly when you're in Hamilton. And I'm really excited for you, what you're going to experience on Thursday night. It's well-deserved. And thank you so much for your time, and best of luck to you, my friend.
I appreciate it, man. I hope to see you guys out there in the field.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, man. Love you guys.
That is Joe Montford, as you can hear. I mean, you're on the phone. This guy in his day, would have been seeing people. I mean, it's Hamilton, small town. It's like in some ways it's different than the NFL because the towns are smaller and everyone kind of knows who you are. It's closer to like when you play junior hockey or a university, sometimes university town. They all know who you are. I mean, you're not walking down the street, and especially someone like Joe, you probably recognize who it is. It's like sort of seeing Phil Heath if he didn't wear such baggy clothes, right? Because he does. He wears baggy clothes. Yeah. And the fact is, can you not just hear that coming through the phone? What a genuine human being that is.
Just like all world as far as skill level, personality, what he brings on the field, what he brings off the field. A Hall of Fame in every walk of life, and that's what you kind of hope you get every generation, and the Ticats had it during that time. Should say that his record of 20 consecutive or more sacks still holds for 3 consecutive years in a row. Just think of that. 3 straight years of 20 or more sacks playing defensive end for the Ticats. Just an amazing person. And I don't usually tune in to pregame shows, but we'll be watching on Thursday night.
Yeah, I'll be watching. And speaking of watching, the quarterbacks knew that too. That rush end, number 53. Because he's 6'1" or 2 in there somewhere. So if you don't see him, because your offensive line generally going to probably be bigger than him, and so if you're not aware, like coming off the edge like that, that's why that must have been a very terrible feeling, because it's like he came out of nowhere and he's coming with the heat.
Yeah,
and that's what he did, as Dave just mentioned.
I watched a lot of Joe Montford, videos from tributes that his teammates, and the one thing that you get from almost everybody in one sense or another is he was so good because of when he would change direction, he would beat you off of that first step.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's going left and he has to go right, that first step is critical to going back left. he would be the first one there.
Yeah.
And that's why he was 6'1", 2 something, big dude. You know, we talked about the biceps, how, you know, Superman like the shoulders were, because I do remember that.
Yeah.
That's my memory of Joe Montford and him just assaulting offensive lines and quarterbacks, running backs, whatever. But the thing was, he was so quick, changing directions, moving, and getting that first couple steps that would beat probably every single offensive tackle in football, because that's what he's up against. You're right. The tackle, the biggest part of the offensive line, usually around 6'5", would be considered a small tackle.
Yeah.
And this guy would be that much quicker. That's what made him that good, because he ran like a sprinter.
Well, and it's not surprising that, you know, they said the record that he almost broke came from James Quick Parker.
Quick Parker, yeah.
And they
Another
were
quick guy.
another
exactly.
similar
Yeah.
sort of build and a similar style. Both of them just lethal when it came to defense. So that was really great having him. Now, you had mentioned some of the size. Like, size obviously matters. So in football, and this is maybe different than wrestling or bodybuilding. So Bubba Khan, sometimes they call him Khan Baba, like B-A-B-A. So they call him the Pakistan's Hulk. So I know nothing of that world, as you know, Dave. I mean, and he wants to be a wrestler, so maybe by now he is. I don't know. His stature is weird. He's like 500 pounds or something. I don't know. He's 6 foot. It's just strange. Of the strangeness that I'm going to show you first, and you can tell that they believe this is sort of promotional stuff to send fear into those that might want to fight him.
Sure.
This one and these next two things I'm going to show you, almost in the world of the insane, don't make sense. So the first thing I'm going to show you, that this 600-pound man or whatever is faster than a motorcycle. Even that huge. How could that be? Let's see.
Serious now.
Yeah, that was kind of weird because of the head start and stuff. So. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to take from them. The music. Jump, chugga, chugga, jump. Oh, here comes another one. That's the stretching that most runners use.
Yeah, very Usain Bolt-like. Shoes are coming off again.
There's a slight head start. I don't know what to make of those things. Yeah, see.
Yeah, flags on the field.
It's like,
Flags on the field. Procedure on the offense.
yeah, I'm not so sure. So this is the tremendous speed that you should be afraid of.
It's funny because although she's about 500 pounds lighter, weighing in at about 47 pounds, my oldest, Marissa, 5-year-old, when she races with me, she does that all the time. She tells me to put my foot down, and I do, and she says, "Okay, go," but she's already like 3 steps ahead of me when she says go, and it seems to work for her. So I mean, this guy has adopted the same sort of approach, and he's undefeated against motorcycles. I think the WWE should give him a contract, maybe a tryout.
Then they said this was on CNN. This is where it really falls off the rails for me.
Really, this is worse than the first?
This is way worse.
Oh, okay.
This is supposed to be a world weightlifting competition where he is supposed to have lifted a world record, like 450 kilos or something.
Okay. Breaking news.
Okay, you tell me. Is this supposed to be like I thought? Like it's supposed to be funny, right? Like we're supposed to laugh at this. You're not really thinking that we believe this was on CNN. The announcers never mentioned his name. There's no advertisement anywhere. Like it's flooded everywhere. And the man is wearing what I think is an overcoat and pajamas or
Why
whatever.
Why are you ruining this for me? I'm buying this right now.
Okay, watch this. The world's strongest man.
Khan Baba from Pakistan, which is 440 kg weight and the world's strongest man. Yesterday he did the history. He made the world weightlifting new record in America Weightlifting Championships 2017. The weightlifting new record is 400 kg.
That's a new personal best, but more importantly, It's a new world record.
It's a great crowd shot.
Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure that did.
That's awesome. You know what? In the next video, and we don't have it up. A kid actually walks on stage and picks up the weight and walks it off stage.
It's a Benny Hill skit.
Yeah.
Is what that was. That was terrible.
That was terrible.
I mean, why would you have Russell do that?
Solid edit, though. Solid edit. I bought it.
The most amazing. There's the record we've been waiting for from. Like, the edit. Make sure there's no names in there, no advertising, and then the roar of the crowd, which sounded like there's 100,000 people there.
Yeah. Well, there may have been.
As he's lifting 440 kilograms. What's that? Like 1,000 pounds or something. So you don't know this guy hasn't been a wrestler?
Not in the WWE. No, not yet. Maybe he does some sort of independent shows. I mean, there's wrestling organizations in that part of the world, but
the Hulk from Pakistan is it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Khan Bubba, and then it says WWE, but it's written weird. But we can't play any of that stuff because they'll take us down.
Yeah,
we play that stuff as done anyway. So
fair enough.
If you know who this man is, maybe is he a cousin? Hey, that woman would have been yelling that stuff from her car if it was this guy, because that guy could pick up the car. Yeah, we'll see about that, lady. I just thought that was so bizarre. Also, we talked that you're going to be having some of those NFL breakdowns as we talk about sports interaction.
Yep.
Between the lines, inside the lines. What's the show? Inside the Lines.
Inside the Lines.
Yeah. So that
Sundays, 10 o'clock.
That will be coming up. One of the guys that, a couple of the guys this year. Of the two, I mean, there's so many quarterbacks that you're going to be looking at. But to me, Deshaun Watson and what the Houston Texans do is going to be really, really interesting. Now, Deshaun Watson is just a phenomenal athlete. He goes to a school. He goes to Gainesville High School. So this is actually in Georgia, where he's from. So I'm going to find some other music here, just because they probably have their own. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to. Boy, this machine's driving me nuts.
And by the way, Deshaun Watson, a lot of people are looking at this as what could be a massive comeback year because of the injury. And if he actually stays healthy, and the Texans are okay on both sides of the ball, and we're talking about J.J. Watt being healthy and Clowney being healthy, this team is capable of surpassing and supplanting the Jacksonville Jaguars as the best team in that division. And a lot of people have the Jaguars high this year, too.
Yes,
this
they
team
do.
might be better than Jacksonville just because of how good Watson is at the quarterback position over a Blake Bortles.
Yeah, you know what? I'd like to see Houston, I'll be honest, between those two teams. This is what he did at Gainesville High School. By the way, he did the same thing at Clemson. He's that good, Deshaun Watson. It's just the combination of his athletic ability and then his ability to throw. There's really nothing he can't do. I'm sure in the state of Georgia it was not a lot of fun if you had to play Gainesville during this time. Once again, high school, that is in Atlanta is where that is. Now, of the other quarterbacks that we probably could talk about that I think are going to be something, Patrick Mahomes is going to get his time to finally step out and see what he can do. And he, again, another
and he will do very,
crazy
very
athlete, like
very
really
good.
Exceptional.
Yeah.
And all round. So, as I was looking, and I like to, look at these guys where they start from, where they go, they letter in more than one sport. And when I first saw this video, I wasn't sure who I was seeing. I thought maybe I made a mistake. So he's a Texas guy through and throughout, plays his high school at White House, which I think is Corpus Christi. He ends up going to Texas Tech, where the Red Raiders throw the ball about 500 times a game. So he's kind of used to throwing a ball. But Get a load of this. This is the first one, right? This is Patrick Mahomes playing baseball. Get a load of this. Like, look at the mechanics on this thing. I mean, I'm not sure how far as a prospect he would have gone or how far, but look at. I mean, and so there he is. So there he is playing high school baseball. So right, this is like the semifinals, state semifinals. Yep. But when you watch him play football, it almost is unfair. Watch how athletic this guy is. Like, some of the stuff is crazy. Sometimes he looks like he's got nowhere to go. Look at this. And no, not going down. And throwing. Like, it's remarkable how good he was. And is.
Catchy music, too.
What's that?
Catchy music.
Oh, yeah. I wrote this last night. Watch this. Unbelievable.
See, and the thing, too, he has going for him is Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins is now with the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes might be the favorite to be the Rookie of the Year, and he's up against some pretty good running backs, but the Kansas City Chiefs have themselves a quarterback probably for the next decade if he stays healthy. And when looking at that kind of video and seeing what he did in college, what you saw last year in very, very spot duties, he played at the end of the year very sparingly. That is the 2018 version of Brett Favre. That's what that is.
Well, he's had a lot of comparisons, and when you bring up that name, a lot of comparisons to that particular individual, which is obviously pretty high praise. But when you look at the never say die kind of attitude, which is this is why he got that, and he's a bit of a gunslinger, right? Which was Brett was due. That AFC West where we talk about it, Dave, it's gonna be very interesting. Look, there's been some years where Kansas City, San Diego in its time, the Raiders and Denver. If Denver wasn't win the whole thing, that was a terrible division.
Yeah.
Some of those teams, including the Chargers, that were sort of real hit and miss. Kansas City went through some terrible years where they were one of the most boring teams to watch too. Just a heartbreak team. I couldn't stand them. And you know the troubles Oakland has gone through. Think about it this year. Now, if you're looking at it with Denver, with Case Keenum, where do you think they fit in? Because I really think that this is going to be a fun division.
It's going to be a fun division, but I'd hate to say it to the Denver Bronco fans out there, Kevin Gibson, but the Broncos are the fourth best team in that division. And they have a very good defense. The Chargers right now are the favorites to win the division. They have everything going on both sides of the ball. The defense looks awesome. That pass rush in the front seven looks fantastic. This might be the last calling card, the last opportunity for Phillip Rivers because he has everything in place. They have the feature running back. They have the nice tight end. They have a couple great receivers, a strong offensive line. The betting lines right now see the Chargers to finish first, the Chiefs to finish second, the Raiders to finish third, and the Broncos to finish fourth in that division. The Broncos might be a 500 team, but fourth place in the 4-team division. That's how close that's going to be.
Now, we showed the clip of what the stadium in Las Vegas is going to look like, what Raider Stadium is going to look like.
Amazing,
It is beautiful. So, but that was those little models, the finished models. So, what does it? We don't really have any. I'm going to play this music. Yeah. Let's take a flyover on the current stadium right now, building right there in Dave in Las Vegas. Doesn't quite look like the model yet.
No, not yet.
But isn't it crazy that this is how this starts? How that building? But what even crazier? Look at what is behind. Well, look at what is behind.
Yeah.
All the Vegas hotels.
All the strips, everything. The place where Jerry Jones will say, "No, you're not going there. We're going to Henderson, Nevada. We're staying there instead."
Look at that. So now you can kind of see exactly where in the city that is going to be built.
And NFL fans travel.
That's going to be the most heavily
that is going to be
sought
massive.
after ticket.
Everybody joked about how the Golden Knights had opposition crowds, and they did. Like when the Jets went down to Vegas in November, there was about 4,000 Jet fans, including my brother. When the Maple Leafs went down on New Year's Eve, you mean you don't know somebody that actually went down to Vegas for? Of course you did.
Calgary heavy, Vancouver heavy.
The same thing will happen with the NFL with traveling fans, and also the thing is when you're in the States, it's so damn cheap to travel.
You go in Southwest, get there for $78 return or whatever it is.
Easy. This is going to be the destination place, and of course, in a couple of years, that stadium, once it's finished, that's going to be the site of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, what could go wrong there?
Nah, nothing.
That will be one stinky, skanky Super Bowl.
It will be.
Do you know
and I bet you there's going to be multiple Super Bowls there.
Do you know how much money the Spearmint Rhino?
Oh, yeah. They might have to have NFL nights.
I might start dancing as Dr. Shit Pants or something. The laziest ostomy bag, cigar. I don't want him to dance for me. Yes, you do. Do a little Michael Jackson thing. You're going to love it, ladies. Yeah. Just don't touch that part. It's not good. Also, this weird time of falling in between, where NFL sort of picks up, baseball's going through its thing, the Little League World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what it is, but I've been in like big hotels, I've been in resorts, I've been in Vegas at this time of year where all the TVs are focused. But they're just like, they are children, Dave. Like, they're just little children.
Bingo.
And you'll hear the announcers on ESPN, they'll talk about it. Then you see this picture. And this is a game between New Hampshire and Rhode Island. And the picture looks like it's from, some movie where, I don't know, the kid's name was probably Porky or something, or Fathead. Because his cap can barely fit on his head.
Yeah.
But there is weird drama, and I hate, looking and enjoying it simply because, the reality is, Dave, they're just children. Like, we shouldn't get that much pleasure out of whether it's a home run or a big dramatic play. But it is the Little League World Series, and this actually has a record for one particular reason, and you're going to see what it is.
Well, 1-2. Kelsey's done a good job on Lama in the sequence.
Breaking ball, right field, good for a hit and extra bases. That's going to bring in Turner. Mathers going to third. He's being waved in. He's going to score into third with a triple. Logan Lama, and it's a new ball game.
It certainly is a new ball game.
Yeah, it was 5-0, by the way, at the start of this, now 5-2.
Himself together and getting a pitch he can hit and drilling.
I love that sound, by the way.
Opposite field.
I love that sound.
Aggressive running by Coventry. Aggressive running by Lama, taking third. Now one batter away from the time. Lama delivered with 2 strikes.
See, there's Borky.
Ooh. Right up the middle. Good piece of hitting. And they're going to bring the tying run to the plate with nobody out. Cody French delivers a line shot.
Clutch, 2-strike pitch.
Bats. Nobody out. And short and playable for Strand. 1 down.
You know how crazy the parents must be watching this, how wound up they'd be.
As you look at that scoreboard, that 5th run, but it did. And now it's a 2-run deficit versus 1. This one's popped up and playable. Second base gives way to Logan Simmons. And just like that, wow, all 4. Isaac walks the 8-hitter. Down to second base goes the pinch runner Wilkins. It scored all 3 of their runs here.
I'm saying this guy's Russell. This is Russell right here. This is Russell.
On the ground, up the middle, and underneath the glove.
Right, am I right, Rusty?
And the bases are loaded.
Money.
Oh, what a clutch hit right there to keep the inning alive. Again, we mentioned it, the number 9 boys in this tournament.
They're kids.
Come on, Russell, get up.
He's on
part of the team. Keep it alive. Keep it alive.
The announcers don't talk about the guy on the ground once.
Rayo is down on the field off of first base. Not sure if he hit the bag awkwardly or not. but he beat out that hit up the middle. And as he celebrates, take a look. Oh, yeah, he tripped right over.
Oh, Russell. No.
Good job.
Here we go. Back to the action.
Ball 4, and it's a one-run game.
Unreal.
Look who's coming.
Now what do you do if you're New Hampshire? You got to take them out of the game? What are you doing? What is Belial doing?
Well,
Take it off, Cam. Take it off.
Isaac Warren and Tommy Turner. Ball 1, a walk ties the game up. Outfield very shallow. This guy can hit it over your head, too. And that's a liner up the middle.
Oh.
One run's going to score to tie it. Simmons is going to throw home. Seinfeld home and Rhode Island.
Game is over. Unbelievable, Dave. Unbelievable. Russell Graham is still on the ground. He's crying. No one seems to be noticing it whatsoever.
I'll tell you, one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen.
6 runs in the bottom of the 6th inning.
Oh, see, that's the brutal part.
Turner delivered a single up the middle.
Oh.
Looked like Logan Simmons hesitated for a second.
Yeah.
There was no hesitation around third.
Brutal for the kids. I don't have to tell you. You saw it right there. The inability of Porky to throw a decent ball. And his team suffers the worst defeat in the history of Little League World Series. That was an absolute... Anyway. But see, there's the thing, though. They're kids. And they're talking about it's the greatest comeback I've ever seen. Really? Because I think probably in little kid stuff, that might happen. That might happen all the time. It's just the way it is. But they have, like, what? How many cameras are they taking for something like that? Is there 10?
Both sides of the dugout, 2. Center fielder, 3. Behind home plate, 4. ISOs on at least 2. Looked like it was a regular major league setup.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say just a guess because I've never been at one of these games that it's a little bit of a downgrade. I'm gonna say 8.
8 cameras.
Yeah. I'm gonna say 8.
But that's still unbelievable.
That's still unbelievable. Yes, that's when you look at and you know what? And a lot of times I've seen it too. They do have the flyovers, so they do have like a blimp because it's an easy sponsorship deal. Goodyear, you may have heard of it.
Yeah.
So that's very popular too because you have the establishing opening shot, inning shot, closing game shot. It really comes in handy. So that's just a gut feeling on what they'd probably use there.
We're going to take a look at Sports Interaction, some of the numbers. We talked about that game between Edmonton and Hamilton on the Thursday night. It's a 7:30 start. Still holding at -3.
Interesting. That field goal mark, eh?
It's a tough number in football. A lot of guys don't like it.
Cement there too. I don't think.
I don't think it's moving anywhere. I do like the Ticats in this one. Should be pretty emotional.
Yeah.
Edmonton, I'm still not quite sold on. I'm just not. Ticats at home, I think in a big game, I think they should come through. You got the Argos, the Montreal Alouettes. It is -5.5. Argos on the road. They've played really well. I wonder if you see Johnny Manziel. There's no word, as far as I know, whether Johnny Football's playing. The Bombers go to the Stampeders, who are going to be in just the worst moods of all time after the game they played Saskatchewan. It's a bad place for the Bombers. Even though it's +9, I think there'll be a lot of people, Dave, at 10 and under would probably take the Stampeders. I don't know if that number moves, though.
That is more of a movable number than the 3, but if we're looking at it, it might get to 9.5. Who knows, right?
Yeah, I think anything under 10, I think I still would take.
It's a Saturday afternoon game, so we still have a couple of days to kind of figure that out, but you're absolutely right. It would go higher than lower.
Saskatchewan and the BC Lions, that game will be tight. It's -3 BC, and I don't think that line's going to move.
No, I don't think that's going to move either. A lot of people are looking at that going, okay, well, BC fell short in Toronto. Saskatchewan had such a massive game against Calgary, so there could be a little bit of a letdown factor with Saskatchewan going out west to play the Lions, but I'm still tempted to go Rough Riders on that.
You know, the amount of time that I've looked at and seen Tiger Woods' name mentioned in headlines, so I just go to now just briefly to ESPN Sports. I put on the golf, and the first 4 headlines. So there's Tiger, Ricky, Rory, and Jordan all enter FedEx Cup with questions. Then Tiger prepares for 3 straight tournaments. Tiger.
Tiger talk, exactly.
Unbelievable.
And you're getting zero value on Tiger actually winning anything just because he's such a public bettor. It's like saying, hey, I like the Patriots to win. Of course you do, because America likes the Patriots to win. You know, back in the day, it was Dallas Cowboys. You bet on Dallas, and you don't get any value on there. One thing I will tell you about Sports Interaction where you get tons of value, and I played that just the other day, they have a Piñata Super Bowl bet. So you click on the Piñata Super Bowl bet. It's under NFL Futures. So get the swinging horse, tap on it, and they give you a random NFL team to win the Super Bowl outright at 25-1. So, of course, I tried it. I only put $2 down because there is a little bit of a risk factor because you might get Tampa Bay, which means you won't even make the playoffs. But I got the Minnesota Vikings on a $2 bet at 25-1 to win the Super Bowl. And that's a legitimate threat to win a division and a conference.
That's a legit. I mean, to me, I look at Minnesota, what they're eventually going to do because they're going to be right there. Really curious in Philadelphia. So Carson Wentz, I mean, hopefully there's some health at some point for all of them. But Carson Wentz, to me, you got to think about these guys who, look, so Carson Wentz never got to finish. Deshaun Watson never got to finish. There are guys like Case Keenum who's got something to prove because he wants to, show up. And the fact that wasn't a fluke last year. We just played Patrick Mahomes. You look at Josh Allen, all the Joshes. You look at Sam Darnold. This is a good sign for NFL football. I mean, where it gets stagnant is where you simply have the same guys year after year and they don't go anywhere. This is a lot of young quarterbacks. This is sort of don't you think, at least I have the feel of the passing of the torch. I mean, we've talked about Brady forever. We've talked about Aaron Rodgers forever. I mean, all of a sudden we don't talk that much about Derek Carr.
No.
Because Derek Carr was the young guy.
Yeah.
Now he's not young anymore.
And Derek Carr still has a lot of years
left
in him.
Sure he does. Absolutely
So
he does.
you kind of sit there and say, yeah, I think it is a changing of the guard. I think you're going to eventually see it with the Giants as well. You're going to see it with the Patriots as well. So, some of these older guys, Ben Roethlisberger is starting to hint at retirement. So some of these guys that have won countless Super Bowls and multiple Super Bowls, they're not going to be around anymore. That elder statesperson is, Drew Brees. How many years does he have left? Aaron Rodgers still has a lot of gas left in that tank, but he's going to be known as that elder statesman within the next 2 years.
That's really interesting that you talk about Drew Brees because I left him out, and yet
he's 37 years old.
Like at fantasy football, are you taking a Drew Brees if he's available?
Yes. Depends on where. It's all about where you get these guys in the draft.
But he's still a
well.
legitimate. It's not like, oh God, I got stuck with Brees. No one's saying that.
No one's saying that.
At that age, that's incredible.
And he has tons of weapons. He doesn't throw as often as he used to, just because he has 2 really good feature backs behind him. But the thing is, and I hate to say this, but there will come a time where Drew Brees is not in the NFL just because Drew Brees is hitting 40. He's 39. Sorry, he's 39 years old. So people talk about Tom Brady, how much time does he left? Same category as Drew Brees. They basically came in at the same time.
Nothing is showing me physically that Drew Brees either is going to retire, wants to retire, or should retire. I haven't seen anything. I think it's going to be like a personal choice.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't have to get hit by freight trains anymore. But that has never phased him. He's not the tallest quarterback, that's for sure. He's not the biggest quarterback.
No, he's not.
But yet he still is one of these guys that there is almost nothing on the horizon that tells me that he's going to call it a day. And he is one of my favorite guys. And as you know, in New Orleans, a god.
What? We just become best friends? Yep.
You
want to go do karate in the garage? Yep. It's
Would like to thank our great guest today, Joe Monfort, CFL Hall of Famer. He'll be going to the Ticats Wall of Honor on Thursday. Just a gentleman. It was a wonderful conversation and great to catch up with him. And as I said, aside from all the athletic accomplishments that he talked about as a professional, you could just tell he'd be a great teammate because that is one fine human being that we talked to this morning. Speaking of getting ready to rumble, don't we have...
John Robinson on. He's a WWE writer. He was given exclusive behind-the-stage passes of how WrestleMania was formed, a year in the making. It's going to be on the show tomorrow.
Join us tomorrow.